There we go. Okay, I think it says we're live now. We were just discussing mission statements and breakout groups and how they really ought to be held on Saturday nights instead. This is Up North News
Jealous,
Radio.
everyone.
You should be. They get to talk about mission statements. It's Tuesday, December 12th. I'm Pat Kreitlow in Chippewa Falls. Greg Bach is down in Waukesha. I always want to say Waukesha to be funny, but it's actually not that funny after a certain point. So my apologies. It's actually Waukesha. At the Shaw.
Walk. You know, this station's so walk now.
Oh, I never even thought of that. Okay.
Goodbye.
Well, secret audience, you get to get some insight into the next running joke on Civic Media. All right, what do we have? We have our temperatures in, so I'll actually put those up instead of looking at our mugs while I tell you that coming up in 4 minutes, we will be talking about state politics in terms of what the state Senate Republican leader said about one of the fake Trump electors who is serving on the Wisconsin Elections Commission, incredibly enough. And in our second hour, we will be joined by Congressman Mark Pocan for an update on 2023, a rather unforgettable year for the House of Representatives. So all that and Chad Holmes and much more coming up in just a little bit after network news, civic media news, and weather. We'll see you in about 3 minutes or so.
Candidates all from one place. Start at Indeed.com/credits.
Timeout.
All right. Remember, we're a team that plays together. Listen, the winning will take care of itself. We just have to get everyone involved.
In interscholastic sports, we celebrate what makes every one of us unique. And in the pursuit of a common goal, everyone in the huddle, in the bleachers, and in the community comes together. This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
You're listening to The Shaw, WAUK 540 AM Jackson, W266DR Waukesha, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
This is CBS News on the Hour, presented by Indeed.com.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hopes to sway American lawmakers today to approve more money to help fight the war with Russia. Correspondent Scott McFarlane is on Capitol Hill.
In the middle of war against Russia, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has made the trip all the way to Washington, trying to move a stalled U.S. Congress, which is still gridlocked over how and when to approve new aid for Ukraine. Republicans in the House and Senate are insisting on new border security, immigration reform as part of an aid package. But the negotiators said late Monday there's no end to the talks in sight.
Harvard's Board of Governors is expected to announce a decision today on whether to fire President Claudine Gay over last week's testimony on Capitol Hill about dealing with anti-Semitism on campus. Over 700 faculty members have signed a letter urging the college to resist outside pressure to let her go. Among them, poli-sci professor Ryan Enos.
We didn't think that politicians should be forcing university presidents to resign or to say certain things or something like that. And also, billionaire alumni on Twitter shouldn't be doing that either.
Yale University leaders condemning what they call the desecration of a public menorah after a protester hung a Palestinian flag on a large candelabra in New Haven. The Anti-Defamation League reports anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S. have jumped 337% since the Israel-Hamas war began. Tragedy in New York City, where part of a 7-story building collapsed. Miraculously, no one was seriously injured, but 30 families have been left homeless 2 weeks before Christmas. Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson.
I think about the working people that have to go to work, the children that have to go to school, and their lives are disrupted right now.
Cause is under investigation. It'll be Disney versus Governor DeSantis in a Florida courtroom today. CBS's Peter King from Orlando.
The feud started when Disney Corporation publicly protested what critics call
all all across Wisconsin from Civic Media. This is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Minnesota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Hey, Pat, we can't hear you right now.
Oh, you know what I was about to say? after all the good morning stuff, I was going to say, I forgot to turn on one of my lights here. Hang on, I'm going to go turn on the light. As long as we start.
We are a professional radio station and doing things right and the right way. Happy Tuesday, everybody.
Let's see. We normally start this thing at 6:06. It's now 6:07. We're going to pretend it's 6:06. Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. See, now you're stepping all over my intro here. Now,
okay.
Here we go. It's Tuesday, December 12th. Another beautiful day to have you here from up north. Have you here up north from wherever you're listening across the Civic Media Radio Network, on the app, by podcast, or by social media. Here, this question will put it all into perspective. I got a question for you. Did you get a good night's sleep? Do you feel well rested? Or did you watch that turkey of a football game last night? Because if you did, you're probably as discombobulated as many of the rest of us. And we'll talk more about the Packers ending that 3-game winning streak coming up in just a little bit here. But first, here is what else is on tap for this morning from our home base, 93.5 The Tap in Chippewa Falls. Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul said on Monday he would defend Donald Trump if the former president won the 2024 election in Wisconsin, because that's how much faith he has in the security and accuracy of Wisconsin elections. Now, contrast that with the state Senate Republican leader who refused Monday to remove a member of the Wisconsin Elections Commission, even though he served as a fake Trump elector and has had to legally rescind his false claims. We'll talk to Christina Laurie. She has the uplift for us, some of the uplifting stories you find in our daily newsletter. And in our second hour, Congressman Mark Pocan will join us for an update on what you could call a forgettable 2023 for the House of Representatives, where a small Republican majority was the foundation for chaos and dysfunction compared to the previous session, where Democrats had an equally small majority and yet had one of the most productive 2-year periods on record. We'll talk to Chad Holmes about what's happening in the Wausau area before his 8 a.m. show on Bull Falls Radio here across the Civic Media Radio Network. You can be part of it all as well. You might do us a favor by talking for a while we don't, by calling us at 844-967-2789 or text us at 844-967-2789. Now, we'd love to share your texts. We can also share the messages that you put up on Facebook. You can catch us on the Civic Media Facebook page and the Up North News Facebook page as well. It is just about 6:10. Temperatures around the Civic Media Radio Network read like this. It's 24 right now here on Lake Wissota, 21 in Hayward. Park Falls coming in at 20, Wausau 21. Green Bay's at 27 degrees. La Crosse is 28. Wisconsin Rapids 23. Oshkosh 26 degrees right now. Madison 28. And it's 28 degrees in Waukesha, where we find the aforementioned, aforeheard, but not aforeseen, Greg Bach.
Hello.
Yeah, we're getting into that squirrely. Is it Christmas break time yet? And we appreciate your patience as we kind of juggle many things at once here while we make holiday plans. Some of us are racing toward vacation. Some of us are chasing after new puppies. You are not one of those folks who stays up and like watches entire Packer games when they're on Sunday and Monday nights, right?
No, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not the biggest football fan.
Mm-hmm.
I keep up. I had a lot going on yesterday, so I knew they were playing on Sunday. I knew on Sunday that they were playing on Monday, and then Monday I completely forgot.
Mm-hmm.
So, but from what you're saying, I missed not a lot.
No, and the funny thing is, I was we were mocking Saturday or Sunday's game, the Vikings game, and so I guess, you mock them, you got to deal with them. And that's what we had going there. A 3-0 game, which was bad enough, but a 24-22 game can also be, bad as well. And like I said, it breaks a 3-game winning streak for the Packers by allowing a late field goal. Here are the messy details. Jordan Love threw a 6-yard touchdown pass to rookie receiver Malik Heath with just over a minute and a half left in the game. But then the Packers went for 2 and failed. So if the Giants could just march down the field through a tired Packers defense, a field goal wouldn't simply tie it, it would win it. Well, they did, and they did. And before I tuned out very, very early in the third quarter, I'd seen enough of turnovers, penalties, muffed punt, missed field goal, injuries. Jordan Love was pretty sharp during that 3-game win streak, but kind of regressed a little bit. And so the Packers are now one of 6 teams with records of 6 wins and 7 losses, 6 and 7 teams with 4 games to go. And the next one for the Packers will be coming up this Sunday at home. After a couple of night games, we're getting back to the Sunday noon thing for a couple of weeks. So the next game, Sunday at home versus Tampa Bay, that will be at noon. And as with most Packer games, you can catch it on WRCO FM radio from the center in Richland Center, WRJN AM and FM in Racine, and 98Q Country in Park Falls. And the Milwaukee Bucks needed overtime, but they beat the Chicago Bulls last night at the Fiserv Forum, 133-129. They will host Indiana tomorrow after losing to the Pacers last week in Vegas in the quarterfinals of the in-season tournament. You can catch the Bucks on News from the Center in Richland Center, Oshkosh Air Support, Lake Air at Amory, WRJN in Racine, 98Q Country in Park Falls as well. Mark from the Sack gets to be caller number 1 today. Mark, what did Mark have to say? Mr. Bach, was he?
Mark just wanted me to pass along a message to you and say that those fools in the State House should resign because they're not upholding the Constitution. And he had choice words to say about Devin LeMahieu, Robin Voss, and
well then let's get right into it, shall we?
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. We'll just jump right into it here and talk about. Well, look, there's going to be kind of an overarching theme on this, and that is Republicans in both Madison and Washington not negotiating in good faith. And as a result, people are being harmed as a result. In Congress, you have aid to Ukraine that has been held up for months now. Israel has not received any aid whatsoever since the war with Hamas began, because again of Republicans playing politics with the southern border. And so you have the same thing happening in Madison, where UW pay raises, which again have already been approved, are being blocked by one person, Assembly Speaker Robin Voss. So you have a lot of bad faith negotiating where real folks are getting hurt. And so let's focus on Devin LeMahieu for a second, because although he claims publicly that he opposes Robin Voss's hold on UW pay raises, his hands are hardly clean, because he was asked recently about the fake Trump elector, Robert Spindell. Now, Robert Spindell is one of 10 Republicans who, you'll recall last week, had to settle a civil lawsuit, because they were basically trying to defraud the voters. They were lying about the election results, and part of settling the lawsuit, they had to file paperwork that rescinded their false claims about Donald Trump winning Wisconsin in 2020. Bob Spindell is one of those 10 fake electors, but he also is the only one of them who is a sitting member of the Wisconsin Elections Commission. A member of the Wisconsin Elections Commission currently has just filed paperwork admitting he lied and committed fraud on the voters in 2020. Now, he doesn't face any criminal penalty. He didn't have to plead guilty. but the paperwork is there. The record is clear. And anybody in good faith would say, well, as part of this, Mr. Spindell, you cannot serve on the Wisconsin Elections Commission. And if you don't have the honor to voluntarily step down, then we, the Senate Republicans, are going to remove you. Devin LeMahieu said, no, we're good. We're good. Because, it was, he wasn't found guilty of anything. And, how did LeMahieu put it here? The civil settlement explicitly states that the plaintiffs acknowledge that the defendants, including Commissioner Spindell, admit no guilt or culpability. Well, those are nice words, but the deeds are what they are. Now, by contrast, turn to Attorney General Josh Kaul, who said yesterday that if Donald Trump were to win Wisconsin next year, he would defend a Donald Trump victory against lawsuits challenging the election if the election is clean and fair, and that's what he expects. That's how much faith he has in Wisconsin's election system, that he would defend the results even if he didn't like the results. This should not be news, defending democracy and saying you will abide by its most basic tenets. But that is where we are now, that we have to make sure that we say explicitly the Democratic state attorney general will defend Donald Trump if he wins in Wisconsin next year, while the leader of the Senate Republicans is keeping an admitted election liar on the Wisconsin Elections Commission overseeing those same elections. And we'll take it a step further for Senate Republicans. It's quite likely now, after the University of Wisconsin Board of Regents rejected Robin Voss's scheme to essentially blackmail the UW, he's holding hostage their pay raises and trying to get rid of diversity programs. It's quite possible Senate Republicans will now try to unseat some of the regents or some more of Governor Tony Evers' appointees, because when you can't win on the merits of your argument, you do things hostile to democracy. We'll pause here. We'll continue to unpack the news in just a bit, wherever you're listening across Wisconsin on this Tuesday morning. When you're here, you're up north. Back in just a moment.
I was proud to be a soldier.
I told the truth and got kicked out.
And so I thought to myself, I'm taking this rule down.
If you're an LGBTQ plus veteran, your memories are important too. Share your story with the Library of Congress Veterans History Project, where firsthand accounts from U.S. military veterans are preserved and made accessible for researchers and future generations. Visit loc.gov/vets to submit your stories, photographs, and documents today.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba,
Please be done.
over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Shaw, WAUK.
Little birdie, why do you fly upside down?
This is Joe Williams, who was a very well-regarded jazz singer in his day. Not with us now, but this is the anniversary of his birth, as you'll find out in today's history lesson. But my favorite tune from him is off of the Happy Anniversary Charlie Brown soundtrack, and a little song about Woodstock. On this Tuesday morning, just about 6:21 right now. Let's turn our attention to Texas for just a moment, because there's an update on the case there that we discussed yesterday about a woman, Katie Cox. She's 31. She's got a couple of kids, pregnant with her third, wanted to be pregnant, but because of a fetal anomaly, the fetus is not viable, will die. either before or shortly after delivery, and sought permission for an abortion. She had to seek permission for an abortion because Texas has an abortion ban. And that abortion ban says you can't have an abortion after, so long, and unless it's medically necessary. They put some kind of vague language in there. And if anybody qualifies for an abortion through that exception, you'd have to think it would be a non-viable pregnancy, especially to protect the woman's health and preserve her future fertility options. She may want to have another baby, but she had to go to court, and a court said yes. But then the Texas Attorney General recently tried in an impeachment trial somebody who frankly has no business being in office and is, a borderline criminal himself. Instead took this to the state Supreme Court. The state Supreme Court sided with him, at least temporarily, and said, nope, she and her doctors haven't done enough to qualify for the medical exemption in the abortion ban. Well, we learned late yesterday that Katie Cox has left Texas to get the care that she needs to end her pregnancy, to preserve her health, and allow her to get pregnant in the future if she chooses. And the Texas Supreme Court, as a result of that, went ahead and ruled against her in the case itself, saying, yep, she had not done enough to show that she qualifies for the ban. And if this sounds rather, dystopian, it should. This is the worst case scenario. This is the real death panels that Republicans and conservatives were talking about during the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act debate was all about providing more health care, providing more options, providing more individual choice and control over your health care. But to oppose it, to stand up for the big insurance companies, conservatives made up things about death panels. But that's what we actually have right now. We're going to have in Texas and in other states like Texas, we're going to have the somewhat equivalent case of fertility courts, where judges will decide, not doctors, the judges will decide if you, the woman, have jumped through all the right hoops in order to get the care that you need to stay healthy. And we don't really have to give you a good reason. We, the new fertility courts of the future, can just say, nope, we don't. And you'll just have to leave the state. Which, by the way, gets us to one of our most fundamental debates in this country. And that is, do we want to be one United States of America? There are plenty of people who, to this day, from the earliest days of our republic, have said, no, we're pretty good with being essentially 50 sovereigns. And you can take that point of view, but then what you end up with is a checkerboard. The rights that you have in one state are not the rights that you have in another state. And at some point, you always have to draw a line. Like, are we a country? Are we one country or not? And at the country level, at the national level, aren't there certain rights you should have border to border, coast to coast? And people would say, yeah, of course, they're in the Constitution. And they're in the courts that interpret the Constitution. But when courts like the right-wing justices on the U.S. Supreme Court threw out Roe v. Wade and said, well, abortion is not one of those rights, we want the checkerboard where you have to go from state to state, then people like Katie Cox have to do that. She didn't think she would have to do that. She never would have guessed that. And yet it happened to her. And so what's to say for any woman of childbearing age listening right now, what's to say something like that can't happen to you? To this day, there is a district attorney in Sheboygan County who says he's going to abide by the new ruling out of Dane County that that state law from 1849 is not actually an abortion ban. But even as he says he's going to abide by the ruling, he is appealing the ruling. And it is not out of bounds to suggest that in a county like Sheboygan County, all it takes is one rogue DA or one rogue law enforcement officer. And there is a Katie Cox out there somewhere in Sheboygan County or in some other county, and or her doctor. And we're going to read a story one day that they're in the county jail based on an interpretation of an 1849 law that they now want to take, say, through the federal courts to try to get it to the U.S. Supreme Court and see if they can get the U.S. Supreme Court to have a different interpretation than what the Wisconsin Supreme Court might do about a state law. And you get into all kinds of legal weeds then, as far as, when can the U.S. Supreme Court get involved in something? But the conservative justices on this court have already proven their willingness to do that. One more quick story to tell you about. It's a rather troubling story. It's out of Trempealeau County, where the coroner there stonewalled the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel for over a year. It was the only county in the state that did not provide gun death records, as the Journal-Sentinel was doing a statewide examination of firearm deaths in Wisconsin. The Journal-Sentinel looked and found that gun deaths have doubled in the state since 2004, with suicides in rural areas making up a big part of the picture. Suicides account for 71% of all gun deaths. And as part of a project through the O'Brien Fellowship in Public Service Journalism at Marquette University, reporters obtained and analyzed data from records provided by all the counties, except Trempealeau County, where the county coroner, Bonnie Kinschke, ignored the Journal-Sentinel's request, ignored several follow-ups. The Corporation Council then failed to respond to the Journal-Sentinel. And it was only when the Journal-Sentinel finally threatened a lawsuit that they provided the data that had been requested properly under open records laws. Kinschke told a reporter in June, "I'm not digging through those records for you. I've told you that a dozen times. I don't understand why you can't understand that. This is ridiculous. Goodbye." And she then hung up on the reporter. And now, under threat of a lawsuit, the county has put forward the records, but the coroner says that she would not do so again in the future. She said, "I consider my information about families that have been through the worst possible times in their life, when they've lost somebody they love, it should not be open to the public or anybody else." That's not for her to decide. And that's the kind of, again, behavior that is in line with what we're seeing from certain other corners of our politics today, that they put themselves above the law, they put themselves above democracy, they put themselves above open records. The Journal-Sentinel was not releasing any identifiable information in this record. Kinschke knew that and decided that she could be above the law. Talk to Christina Laurie with the Uplift right after this break here up north.
The Shaw, WAUK.
CBS News Brief. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky heads to Capitol Hill today to urge U.S. lawmakers to pass a stalled aid package to help fight the war with Russia. Former U.S. Ambassador Stephen Pfeiffer.
What I worry about is the question of assistance to Ukraine, which is an important U.S. national interest, is now getting tangled in American domestic politics.
Harvard's Board of Governors expected to issue a decision on college president Claudine Gay today, who's under fire for remarks about anti-Semitism on campus. Students say the uproar is a distraction.
It makes it definitely harder to concentrate on schoolwork.
30 New York City families are homeless after part of a 7-story apartment building collapsed. Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson.
Obviously, we have to do an investigation to figure out what happened. This is an aging city. We have an aging infrastructure. Many of our residential buildings are old, but this building did have a scaffolding on it for quite some time.
CBS News Brief. I'm Deborah Rodriguez.
For Civic Media News, I'm Nate Weggehout. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. The state Senate's top Republican says he's standing by the state elections commissioner who acted as a false elector after the 2020 presidential election. Bob Spindell and 9 other false electors settled a civil lawsuit last week saying they acted to overturn the results of that election. Senate Majority Leader Devin LeMahieu said Monday that he will not remove Spindell from the Elections Commission despite calls from Democrats for his removal. A new poll suggests more people in Wisconsin are buying guns for self-protection. The Journal Sentinel and Marquette University polled 354 Wisconsin gun owners recently. It's the most extensive survey of Wisconsin's gun owners' opinions so far. Roughly half of Wisconsin's homes have guns in them. The survey finds 3 to 8% of Wisconsin gun owners say they've pulled a trigger in self-defense. I'm Nate Weggehout, Civic Media News.
Folks, I tell you this much, the Cripescast is just the butter on my cheese.
Mike and Pat, the hosts of the Crash Dummies podcast.
I was born in Nigeria, actually.
Yeah.
So, I was in Nigerian boarding school for like 3 years. It's like a prison sentence. We were trying to prison break our way out of there because they took our passports. So I was trying to have people send me money so I can find a new passport.
Wait. You were in Nigeria trying to have people send you money.
Yeah, trying to escape.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Cripescast every Saturday and Sunday at noon across Civic Media and on the Civic Media app.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Ample sunshine expected today with a high of 32. West winds 10 to 15 miles an hour. Tonight, lows around 21. High of 36 tomorrow. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 28 degrees.
This is Mean Gene Okerlund, and I'm talking with Brett Yulberg, owner of Robert Hack Diamonds. Brett, I hear you pay cash for gold.
Not only gold, but silver, diamonds in any form like jewelry, teeth, coins, flatware.
Why should I sell you my gold?
Why not? Our store is the only store that recommends you shop around before you sell. This way you know you're getting the most money. But if Robert Hack Diamonds can't beat a competitor's offer on your scrap gold, we'll give you $20 just for letting us try.
Hey, what if I'm shocked?
This is the Shaw, WAUK.
This is Mean Gene Okerlund, and I'm talking with Brett Yulberg, owner of Robert Hack Diamonds. Brett, I hear you pay cash for gold.
Not only gold, but silver, diamonds in any form like jewelry, teeth, coins, flatware.
Why should I sell you my gold?
Why not? Our store is the only store that recommends you shop around before you sell. This way you know you're getting the most money. But if Robert Hack Diamonds can't beat a competitor's offer on your scrap gold, we'll give you $20 just for letting us try.
Hey, what if I'm shy?
You? Well, at Robert Hack Diamonds, we sit with you at a table. We go through your items and make you an offer. You're not pressured, and we offer more on jewelry that we can resell.
Can I trade my gold for a new piece of jewelry?
Of course you can, and not only that, we can custom make a piece of jewelry using your gold and gems.
Hey, there you have it, folks. Sell your gold to my friends at Robert Hack Diamonds. Visit them on 76th and Layton in Greenfield. Robert Hack Diamonds, where they want your business.
Keeping Southeast Wisconsin informed, engaged, and entertained. This is The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM, WAUK.
One more time before we take a holiday break, we bring on Christina Laurie, who has the uplift for us. Some uplifting stories from our daily newsletter. Sign up for it, of course, at UpNorthNewsWI.com. Christina, how are you?
I'm great. I'm bringing some extra holiday cheer with today's stories, Pat.
Awesome. Yes, I clearly see that from the quick little bullet points that you sent me here. But before we get to those, not that you have to give away your whole holiday plans here, I'm just going to say, what are you most looking forward to? Either something specific for this year or something that you look forward to every year. What are you anticipating most?
I mean, I am almost 30 years old and Santa still does visit my parents' house, you know. So I can't say that I'm not excited for Santa. I mean, I wouldn't want to slam him. He does bring me some good stuff every year.
Well, he clearly has a couple of good elves. Yeah, if that's the case.
Yes. But it's always Christmas for me is just being at home with my parents and my brother. And we just kind of keep it our family of four. Christmas Day, we just use it as an opportunity to never get out of our pajamas. And we have a tradition where we only are allowed to eat breakfast foods or desserts all day. So if we make it a rule, then you don't feel bad about not including any vegetables or fruits, right?
That's awesome. Those actually are some of my favorite memories with my daughters in their, I'd say pre-teen and early teen years. There were some Christmases, or more likely New Year's Days, where we didn't get out of pajamas all day. There was there'd all be marathons on TV of one sort or another, and those actually are some of my favorite memories. So that's awesome that you guys make it a yearly thing.
New Year's Day is a good excuse to do that too. We do that when we watch the Rose Bowl parade, but it's kind of, it's been a little lackluster the past few years because the new orientation of how they do the college football playoffs means that big teams aren't in it as much. It was so much more exciting when Wisconsin was in it or Illinois, where I was from, but now they're just seemingly random mashups. And I don't really about seeing their
the Badgers did somehow manage to sneak into a New Year's Day bowl, ReliaQuest bowl that nobody's heard of, but it's New Year's Day. So when is Illinois playing their bowl game? Where's
too soon. Too soon.
Sorry. I didn't know. I don't follow. It feels like everybody gets a bowl game these days.
I know, you would think, and they lost out of all things. This would be like Wisconsin, missing out on a bowl game because they lost to Minnesota in the last seconds of the game. That's what happened to Illinois with Northwestern. So
okay. All right.
Much too soon. Come on. Can we switch the subject?
My condolences. Let's go to another family that makes the most of holidays. They are in Caledonia, and you're telling me that they found a way to turn their holiday light show into a children's book. Tell us more about that.
Well, they're really an awesome family, the Benders, and they've been in charge of a drive-through display that's in Racine County. It's been open since 2009. And if you think that your neighbors set up their lights early, maybe they put them up somewhere like the week before Thanksgiving, the Benders get this, immediately after Columbus Day. So that's before Halloween. So you cannot complain. And they have a good reason because it takes them that long to get their entire 1.6-mile winding show all set up. They put so much effort into it. It is so beautiful. It's located at Yogi Bear's Jellystone Camp Resort, which is along Highway 38. And it's so popular that they decided to turn it into a children's book. And this children's book has a really great meaning. It's called Evie, the Evergreen Finds Her Shine. Based on the light show, and the book basically follows a girl, Sophia, and her brother, Jax, who stumble across Evie, who's a pine tree that feels different from the other trees in the forest. So throughout the story, the siblings, they have to teach Evie how to shine in her own way. And what's cool about this experience is that light shows, they can be fun for kids, but it's more like, they want something more. They want food, or they want to meet Santa or something out of it. And this show combines all of that. So you can drive through the show all the way and stop by Santa's workshop, which happens to be on site there. I don't know how we got so lucky to be here in Wisconsin, but Santa will read them the book and then send them on their way with some treats too. So It's really an all-in-one magical experience.
Personal observation. I love when these things talk about Evie and being a little unique and different, and you see it with some of the newer holiday specials, because it always reminds us that as beloved as Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is, the 1964 TV special, it really was rooted in Donner the dad and Santa both being big time jerks, because Rudolph wasn't a conformist. And so while we still air that thing, we thankfully have a new generation that is, shall we say, more with the times.
And it's weird because it never bothered me before, but just now how much we are in HD format, the stop motion features that they use, they just don't translate as well. I still love it for the nostalgia, but it just looks extra dated. So I can't even imagine for kids who never experience life not in HD.
I have to say, though, the thing about that particular special, it gave us the bumble. And that's still a word we use here. If somebody is too short to put something on a high shelf, they're like, I need a bumble. And, then somebody taller will come running. Our next subject here, again, something you wouldn't expect in Wisconsin, because we saw Will Ferrell do this in the movie Elf. He ran into a place and he said to them, "You did it. Congratulations. World's best cup of coffee. Great job, everybody. Great to meet you. Hi." And then he left the place. Turns out that wasn't in New York City. It was in Wisconsin?
Yeah, well, technically by the latest standards, I'm glad you referenced that because that part, I'm glad you got the joke. Buddy would approve of this. The world's best cup of coffee was brewed right here at Madison's JBC Coffee Roasters. They won the #1 coffee of 2023 award in an international competition. Now, the specific award winner is JBC's Wilton Benitez Pink Bourbon, which is a very specific brew. You have to like strong coffee to enjoy it. But I'm personally not a coffee person, so I cannot give you my thorough review of it. But I mean, we should maybe put out a call. Like, do you think that Will Ferrell will come and try it to let us know how it compares with that crappy cup of coffee in New York City, in the words of Zooey Deschanel's character?
Mm-hmm. Could be. I mean, look, you had me at bourbon. I'm willing to give it a try. So we'll see. So look for that in one of our newsletter editions. There is a controversial ranking of the best and the worst Christmas candy. Please don't get me in trouble. I got in enough trouble last week saying that, Paul McCartney's Wonderful Christmas Time was the worst holiday song. Clearly, some people disagree with me, Greg, but now we're going to do it with Christmas candy. Where do you want to start?
Wow, that you brought up the worst Christmas song. I was going to say nothing competes with Christmas Shoes. Have you ever heard that song? It's the saddest Christmas song.
I've
So
heard of it, but no, thank you. Ugh.
if you'd like to cry, people listening to this, please Google that. But moving on to something happier. Okay, so
Yes.
there's this controversial list of both the best and the worst Christmas candy. So I'm going to start with the best. Wisconsin's favorite Christmas candies. I'm very confused how this is Christmas, other than the fact that the wrappers are red and green. But apparently Starburst has put out what they call a Merry Mix. And that's what Wisconsin is buying the most of, according to data from candystore.com.
Never even heard of it, much less that people are buying it.
Yes. I mean, it's
okay.
great. It just isn't traditional Christmas. Number 2 is
No.
definitely more traditional, peppermint bark. But that's where it gets controversial because that was also ranked as number 2 on the worst list. So apparently it's very divisive.
Yeah,
The
very
number
much love it or hate it. Okay.
Well, and then number 3, we're getting even more controversial. Again, this is the best list, but reindeer corn, which you may be wondering, what the heck is that? That is the same thing as candy corn, but just dyed in
Oh.
colors.
No. Oh, who put this together? Who am I mad at?
Candystore.com, and it's according to their official data. So
Their
you
official
can't really
data.
argue with the numbers. But
Okay.
if we want to move to the worst Christmas candy, number 1 was Christmas nougat. It was described as squishy, minty, and overall weird. I've never seen it offered to me. I would like to try it just out of curiosity. But also on the list, this is controversial because I think these are delicious. Chocolate covered cherry cordials.
Mhm.
I think those are delicious. So
They are.
have you had those?
Are you sure? Yes. Are you sure you didn't like transpose these lists or something?
I am sure. Because
Okay.
also stocked up on this list are chocolate oranges, which are gross. Ribbon candy, which is just kind of uneventful. It looks nice, but doesn't taste very good.
Yeah.
And then Peeps, which are always controversial.
Wait,
I
Peeps?
I
The
love
Easter candy?
Yeah, well, they make them for pretty much every holiday now.
Come
You can find them
on.
in Christmas tree shapes, reindeer shapes, snowman shapes. They're good if before you slam them. This time of year they should be selling them because what's really good when it's cold is hot chocolate, and you put a marshmallow peep on top, makes it extra delicious, extra festive.
Melting the peep. Melt, bunny, melt. All right. What's
little
not on there?
gourds.
Some of the homemade ones. Here we make what feels like hundreds of chocolate dipped peanut butter balls every Christmas. When from my mom, my favorite thing is when she makes those cornflake wreaths, that are dyed green. And
like
they're
Rice
kinda like,
Krispies, but
yeah, like
cornflakes.
Krispies. They got like a marshmallow thing holding them together. Those are really good.
Delicious.
Yep, those are nice. All right, but when you're considering what kind of cookies to leave for Santa, there's maybe a list you should consult.
Yes. So we mapped out the most searched for Christmas cookie in every state. And so if you want your offering for Santa to be best representative of where you live, which who doesn't, you should put out peanut butter blossoms, which are the traditional peanut butter cookies with a little Hershey kiss on top. Those are pretty much, you can't hate them. It's like a Reese's cup in cookie form. But overall for the country, Google Trends pointed out a few things. gingerbread was the most searched for seasonal cookie, and then sugar cookies decorated specifically were the overall top pick from people. I always put out, my family goes a little rogue, and for Santa, we put out kolaczkis, which is our family tradition to make. We're Polish. The ones with the raspberry topping are the best. I know some people, my grandma used to always make ones with poppy seed filling. That's where we can wade into controversial territory. Though, not everyone likes them. It's an acquired taste, but raspberry is pretty unobtrusive. What's your favorite kind of Christmas cookie?
Well, I do like the raspberry, and my wife's family, again, they grew up with kolaches, and her dad, my father-in-law, just takes up all the poppy seed ones for himself. There's just one son-in-law who by the way, who's no longer a son-in-law, maybe because he took some of the poppy seed kolaches when he maybe shouldn't have. So you have to be careful.
The thing that is a little infuriating about kolaczkis, as the person in our family who makes them, is that they're so small and it takes so long to put the tiny amount of filling that you have to do on each one. And then I watch my brother, who's 27, 6'4", a big lifter guy, and he will just house 50 of these cookies. And I'm like, that alone took me an hour and a half to make those 50 cookies, and they're gone in seconds. I mean, it's brutal. So you need to put out a lot of time if you want to make kolaczkis.
I'm sure he gets you a wonderful gift every year, though, for Christmas. He's probably a great Christmas shopper.
He's a boy, Pat.
And we'll leave it at that. Christina Laurie, Merry Christmas. Have a wonderful break. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yes. Happy holidays, everyone.
I don't know, but that's quite the brother-son chemistry going on there.
Yeah.
Although
I didn't know what a kolache was until right now.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I first of all, I take issue with the whole boy present comment. I give great gifts.
Okay.
Second, I'm like her brother, and I would see those and I'd be like, well, those are mine, so where are yours?
Yeah. Kolache. Here, we've looked it up. It's a Czech-Slovak thing, a type of sweet pastry that holds a portion of fruit surrounded by puffy yeast dough. Common fillings include fruit jam, poppy seeds, prune jam, cottage cheese.
Ooh.
And yes, made right, they're amazing. And I only say made right because, again, much like, say, a croissant or a bagel, you can make these things and go, oh, you made bread. Congratulations.
It's croissant. It's pronounced croissant.
Yes. I mean, you have to give it up to pastry chefs and bakers who understand the difference between all those things. Because, I mean, seriously, there's nothing worse than buying what you think is going to be one thing and it turns out just to be a hunk of bread. Although I saw your face when she mentioned, turning 30 and she's really feeling it now, the old age, and it's like, oh God, to be 30 again, right?
Yeah. If I was turning 30 today, I'd be running out the door, just running down the street, enjoying
running for the sake of running.
Yeah,
Yes.
just my body enjoying it.
To have my 30-year-old knees again. Coming up next, today's history lesson and musical memories. Back in just over a minute, just enough time for you to refill that coffee cup and subscribe to the show as a podcast over at Apple, Spotify, and so forth. We'll be back in a bit. You're Up North.
When someone else instead of me.
UK.
If I could be you.
And you could be me?
For just 1 hour.
If you could find a way.
To get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Think you'd like working with us at Civic Media? We're having fun and moving fast to preserve hometown radio across Wisconsin. If you have the right skills to join our team, let's talk. Civic Media is a proud equal opportunity employer committed to diversity and inclusion, along with the growth and development of all current and future employees. If you're interested or are part of an organization who wants to know more, go to our website, civicmedia.us, and click on the Careers tab.
The Shaw, WAUK.
Now this man here
is going to take me by the hand.
This, of course.
And he's going to lead me down the right path to righteousness and all that other mother jazz.
Would be Francis Albert
in the right
Sinatra.
tempo. Fly me to the moon. Let me swing among those stars.
From one of the greatest
Let me
albums
see
ever.
what
Everybody
spring
ought to own
is
it.
like on
Frank Sinatra and Count
a
Basie
Jupiter
live in the sands
Mars.
from 1966.
In
This is
other
Fly Me to
words-
the Moon. Frank Sinatra, born this day 108
Oh,
years
my.
ago, the pride of Hoboken, New Jersey. Passed away in 1998.
In other words,
Could you imagine
baby,
going to Las Vegas and this was there?
Yeah, I know. I think about it because, again, I've listened to this album. I couldn't tell you how many hundreds of times, and just imagine being there. Of course, first you'd have to deal with all the cigarette smoke because it would be so thick. And
in other
again,
words,
like I like to say, you know, the good old days weren't always good.
No, I agree.
Joel would say. But for moments like this,
in other words,
I could handle that. I'd like that for a night.
Yeah, one night.
Yeah, another birthday for today, and I know the jokes were already made about Bob Barker coming as close as you could to 100 without going over. Bob Barker would have turned 100 today. He passed away back in August, so awfully close to his 100th birthday. Bob Barker, born 100 years ago today. George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue premiered on this day in 1924. Let's get to some birthdays. Happy birthday to Dionne Warwick. She's 83 today.
Do you know the way to San Jose? I've been away so long.
She and Burt Bacharach had quite the combo of songwriter and singer, and a lot of good hits. And then she said, what show did she host for all those years as well? Was it Solid Gold? One of those Saturday music review type things? Yeah.
I believe it was Solid Gold.
Yeah, you know, very, very pleasant show host. I mentioned Joe Williams was born this day in 1918, passed away in 1999. Smokey Robinson and the Miracles started a 2-week run at #1 on this day in 1970 with Tears of a Clown. Grover Washington Jr. Was born this day in 1943. He passed away back in 1999, but gave us several hits, including this one where Bill Withers did the lyrics and he was on the sax. Got a Milwaukee Brewer birthday today. Stormin' Gorman Thomas is 73 years old today. Actress Regina Hall is 52. Actress Maya Bialik is 48 today. It's weird to think of any of the stars of Big Bang Theory, you know, being in their late 40s already.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
That's kind of one of the more contemporary cases of really time is undefeated, man. It just
I don't
keeps
like
on
this.
marching. Yeah, I don't like this at all. Well, here's another one for you. We're about to play The Glamorous Life. Big hit from Sheila E. But listen to this while you process that today she turns 66. On this day in 1987, George Michael hit #1 on the singles chart with Faith. On this day in 1992, Whitney Houston began a 20-week run at #1 on the album chart with The Bodyguard.
Dang.
I know. And on this day in 2020, Bad Bunny's El Ultimo Tour del Mundo hit #1 on the album chart, becoming the first album entirely in Spanish to top the U.S. album chart. And again, that
Nice.
was 3 years ago. And again, another one of those examples where I hear the snippets, you know, like on the Grammy Awards or things like that, and where you make that mental note, I should listen to more of this. I liked it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
My problem is we watch Saturday Night Live either on Sunday mornings or maybe Monday evenings. We catch it later.
Same.
At that point, we just don't have the attention span for like say the musical guests, and we'll catch maybe a little bit of it and go, oh yeah, maybe we'll come back to that, and then we don't. And Bad Bunny is definitely one of those I need to be listening to more. I think
He hosted it this season.
yes, yeah. And
I don't know if I can't remember if he was the musical. I think he was both. I think he was both the musical guest and the host. Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Yeah, he'd have to be.
Yeah.
And that would be, you know, again, the Grammys are going to be in, I think, January this year. Because of the strikes and everything else, or no, wait, or was it
the Emmys?
The Emmys
will
are
be in January
because of the writer's strike. So you're going to have a kind of a more jam-packed award season.
Yeah,
and so expect a lot of this conversation in the first couple of months of the year. Going,
Yeah.
oh, I should check out that show. Oh, I should check out that album. And then you're going to check in with me like a week or two later and say, hey, what'd you, and I was just like, oh, I listened to 5 minutes and then I put it back on the 70s channel, or something.
I put Frank Sinatra back on. Although I got to say December 12th is full. I was looking it up too. There are some other birthdays that are December 12th birthdays. Academy Award winning actor Jennifer Connelly.
Yes, she is.
Birthday.
Yep.
Jazz drummer Tony Williams. No relation to Joe Williams.
Okay.
Let's see who else. Bill Nighy, amazing British actor, and me.
Is today your birthday?
Today's my birthday.
Oh man, I'm sorry. Happy birthday.
Why are you sorry?
Because for my birthday, the whole crew somehow managed to pull off a surprise. There was a Bloody Mary in my desk drawer. There was glitter all over my desk, and I didn't do jack squat for you. I'm sorry,
Pat. You're finding out if there's somehow a Bloody Mary. Well, first of all, if there was a Bloody Mary in my desk, marry me. Second of all, no worries. I love this day because there's especially I share a birthday with so many amazing jazz artists.
Yes.
It's
so
that's
fantastic.
True. Yeah. So,
all right, making the note next year, December 12th. It's all jazz music for the bumpers and whatever you want to pick out. Roger puts up on Facebook on the lighter side, the new Hot 100 broke overnight from Billboard, and Brenda Lee gets a second week at number 1. For rocking around the Christmas tree.
Is my birthday the darker side of this topic matter, Roger Frost?
Oh, no. He put this up earlier. You're not, he did not mean that you are the darker side.
Oh, I'm just fighting with Roger. I'm fighting with Roger.
Not in this particular example, anyway. I guess it does make me. I'm taking nothing away from Brenda Lee and a classic, but again, the whole notion these days of measuring music sales, because again, just look at this show. The show is on the radio. It's on Apple and Spotify. You can watch it on Facebook. And how do you possibly add all that up? And the same goes for music. It was so much easier back when you just had to go buy a record. You could measure the record sales, and now it's all these platforms and all these places. Thank you.
Back in my day, records broke when you threw them on the floor.
Congratulations to Brenda, just the same. We love the song, we love her, and I love the reaction video of her hearing about this. She was just so happy. So good on her. So much more to cover in our next hour, including Congressman Mark Pocan. Stick around.
Yay.
You're up north.
Weekday mornings from 8 till 10 on The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM WAUK. You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram. Be a part of the resistance. Check out The Paul Revere Show with Mark Thompson, Monday nights at 7 on The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM WAUK, and on the Civic Media app.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it.
When your kid can't find the language, find the lyrics. Start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
You're listening to The Shaw, WAUK 540 AM Jackson, W266DR Waukesha, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
This is the CBS World News Roundup, sponsored by Staples.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. We begin in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where another Ivy League college president faces the possibility of dismissal today over congressional testimony deemed anti-Semitic by some major donors. Correspondent Nicole Killian.
Amid calls for her removal, supporters of Harvard President Claudine Gay rallied to her defense, from alumni to staff. More than 700 faculty members signed a letter urging Harvard's governing boards to resist political pressures that are at odds with Harvard's commitment to academic freedom. History professor Allison Frank Johnson co-authored the letter.
Those 700 plus signatories all agreed on the fundamental importance of the university from political interference.
And President Liz McGill resigned over the weekend. The UN General Assembly is expected to vote on a ceasefire resolution today as the humanitarian crisis in Gaza escalates. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant.
Israel will take any measures in order to destroy Hamas, but we have no intention to stay permanently.
There's a new sun rising. I can see a new horizon that will keep me realizing you're the biggest part of me. Need your love and here beside me. Need you close enough to guide me. I've been hoping you would find me. You're the biggest part of me. Well,
AM and 101.1 FM WAUK, and on the Civic Media app.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it.
When your kid can't find the language, find the lyrics. Start a conversation at soundedouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
You're listening to The Shaw, WAUK 540 AM Jackson, W266DR Waukesha, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
This is the CBS World News Roundup, sponsored by Staples.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. We begin in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where another Ivy League college president faces the possibility of dismissal today over congressional testimony deemed anti-Semitic by some major donors. Correspondent Nicole Killian.
Amid calls for her removal, supporters of Harvard President Claudine Gay rallied to her defense, from alumni to staff. More than 700 faculty members signed a letter urging Harvard's governing boards to resist political pressures that are at odds with Harvard's commitment to academic freedom. History professor Allison Frank Johnson co-authored the letter.
Those 700 plus signatories all agreed on the fundamental importance of the university from political interference.
And President Liz McGill resigned over the weekend. The UN General Assembly is expected to vote on a ceasefire resolution today as the humanitarian crisis in Gaza escalates. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant.
Israel will take any measures in order to destroy Hamas. But we have no intention to stay permanently in Gaza Strip.
New video shows overnight airstrikes killed at least 22 people in Rafah along the border with Egypt. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will be in Washington, D.C. today to try to convince lawmakers to pass a stalled aid package that includes new money and equipment for the war with Russia. Former U.S. Ambassador Stephen Pfeiffer.
One thing that the Ukrainians need a lot of right now are more artillery shells. This has been a war waged by ground forces using much heavier levels of artillery than I think was anticipated. And they also need more in the line of air defense.
Texas Republican-led Supreme Court has rejected an appeal by a pregnant woman to get an abortion, despite doctors' determination her fetus has a fatal condition. Kate Cox had already left.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Minnesota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Oh, and it's 7:06. What a gorgeous little pre-dawn sky we have out here to the east. Clear skies up here on Lake Wissota. Got your perfect little balance going from your dark blues to your light blues and your light pinks, and it's going to be a gorgeous sunrise here in a little bit. Nice to have you along on this Tuesday, December 12th. Oh, we missed this in the last segment. What do we got for national days today? Let's see. It's a gingerbread house day. No, we mentioned that yesterday. Day of the Virgin of Guadalupe. It is gingerbread decorating day. International Universal Health Coverage Day. Let's see, National Poinsettia Day and National Ambrosia Day. What is National Ambrosia Day? Let's look this up. It is the day that the Greek mythological food ambrosia, also known as the food of the gods, is celebrated. I would have sworn it was a day to listen to soft rock from the 1970s.
There's a new sun rising.
Apparently, if you have the food of the gods, this is the soundtrack to it. As you hear little ambrosia.
Or when your Aunt Arlene brings ambrosia salad over and you have to say, awesome.
So ambrosia salad is a creamy fruit salad, it says here, that can be made with any fruits of your choice. And it's only enjoyed on special occasions. I don't know. Should I put enjoyed in quotation marks for that?
I think it's fake enjoy on. Cool. We'll put that right on the table on the very end. Hey, Aunt Arlene, do you want me to pack up your ambrosia salad, taking it off my property?
Do you put cat food in your Jell-O? Yeah, so. All right. Again, there's probably going to be like a Christmas Vacation reference every day. That's just the rule. I don't make the rules. I just follow them. All right. Our theme for coming up later this hour is that small majorities don't have to be a problem. And we'll confirm that with Congressman Mark Pocan, who gives us an update on an otherwise forgettable 2023 for the House of Representatives, where the small Republican majority was the foundation for chaos and dysfunction. They got rid of their own Speaker of the House after it took so long to elect their own Speaker of the House. They've passed fewer bills than almost any Congress in history. Compare that to the previous session, where Democrats had an equally small majority and had one of the most productive 2-year periods on record. So we'll do a little compare and contrast with Congressman Mark Pocan coming up a little later on this hour. We will also talk to Chad Holmes, find out what's coming up on Bull Falls Radio in the Wausau area later on, right after this program, one of several across the Civic Media Radio Network. And by the way, if you're curious about Chad's show or some of the other shows that are only on some stations, not others, or maybe you can't catch a program live, go to civicmedia.us for a map of the radio stations around Wisconsin and find out, when shows are playing, and then also subscribe to some of those shows by podcast as well. Meanwhile, for what we do over at Up North News, which is a separate entity from Civic Media, you can go to upnorthnewswi.com and you can sign up for our daily newsletter there as well. click newsletter in the top banner. And looking at what Christina put in today's newsletter, she has cheers to 30 years for the New Glarus Brewery, which opened up in 1993 and is now celebrating. And I personally have something to celebrate about them, which I didn't think about until I opened up the newsletter just now, Greg, but they have a new flavor, and I don't have time to run to the fridge and get it, but it's cherry based somehow. And it is, now again, not everybody is a thing about, fruit and beer, but I love my Liney Summer Shandy. And I'm telling you, this new cherry brew from New Glarus is as smooth and delicious. Now, again, you're not going to get a bucket of them, but if you want something different, well, hey, New Glarus, there's your free commercial for the new cherry beer whose name doesn't occur to me, the cherry beer.
Is it a 4-pack or is it a 6-pack?
It is a 4-pack. Yes.
Okay. They had a porter called Smoke on the Porter, which had meat smoke in it years. They makes it. I think he's made it twice ever.
Uh-huh.
Oh, so delicious. Please make more.
Oh, nice. Okay. Let's see. I think I found it here. So of course you got your spotted cow. Let's see what else they got there. The two women, the Moon Man, Belgian
Those
Red.
two are great.
There's one called Raspberry Tart. But of course,
that one will mess you up.
Oh yeah, really?
Oh yeah.
It's just called Belgian Red Cherry. Yeah. And like I said, it's really good. So anyway, there's an article about their 30th anniversary today in the newsletter. Let's see, along with how you can plan a swimmable staycation at some of the state's best hotels with indoor pools. And then a news story on how student debt cancellation works, given that President Biden has canceled so much more student debt. So get all that in our newsletter. Sign up at UpNorthNewsWI.com. I could go for one of those indoor type of swimming vacations. We used to do it when the kids were younger. And I will admit now, this is several years ago, but when the kids were younger and then when the grandkids were little, we'd go to Kalahari. That was kind of our place. But other people go to Great Wolf and some of the others that are down there. And you don't even have to go to those. We've been to, if the kids are little, pretty much any hotel with, an indoor park, which might be a pool and like 2 slides.
Yeah.
I mean, you
That's
win.
enough.
Oh yeah. That's enough for the kids. That's all.
I mean, if they're little, they don't. We went to Great Wolf years ago, and I actually had to at one point be like, "You're around children right now. You're having a good time, but maybe bring it back a bit." I was like in my childhood, like Noah's Ark state.
Oh no, that sounds fun. We did that. Great Wolf now has the large hotel water park that is adjacent or nearby Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota.
Oh wow.
And we met up with family and our daughters and grandkids, and it was all really nice. But one of our daughters brought their little dog, very cute little terrier, very adorable, but they don't allow pets.
Yeah.
And so Grandma and Grandpa here volunteered to stay at a different upscale hotel nearby that did welcome pets. And so we just kind of played the role of, the pampered pooch, like, here, you just stay here in this nice room while we go play with the grandkids. And the thing is, we got to sleep that night. It was nice. We got to play with the kids by day. But that night when they're all riled up on sugar and pizza and everything else, we can say to our daughters, good night. We're heading over to our hotel, because you brought your dog. We have to go over to this one.
I really want to see. What do they call you? Grandpa Pat, G-Pa? What do they call you?
Grandpa. Just Grandma and Grandpa.
Oh, you're probably the best grandpa ever.
Maybe some.
You just seem like you seem like a guy who's built for grandpa. Like you just got that spirit about you that says, "Come here, all those things your parents won't give you, grandpa will give them to you."
Yeah, I'm pretty darn close. Really am. On one daughter's side, the son-in-law's parents, they go with different names entirely, which are kind of variations of their first name. And that's all fine. I'm actually glad they do that. And it works for them. Clearly the kids use it, but for us just to be plain old Grandma and Grandpa is, it warms my heart. Honestly, it does. What we did was, my mom, her name is Joan, but one of my nephews, when he was little, we started by calling her Grandma Joni, because there are multiple Grandma Kreitlos in the family, thanks divorce, and so she was Grandma Joni, but she shortened it to G Joan, and so she's been G Joan ever since.
My mother is Grandma J to the kids, and they also call her GJ.
See, that's perfect. And again, nothing wrong with, we know a couple of Gigi's and things like that. That's all good. I don't mind kicking it old school for this one. I'm a happy grandpa. That right. Let's do some temperatures around the state at 7:15 right now here on Lake Wissota. It's 24. Hayward is at 20 degrees. It's 20 in Park Falls as well. Wausau is at 21. Green Bay, 26 degrees. La Crosse is at 27. Wisconsin Rapids is 22. Oshkosh is 26. Madison at 27. Waukesha, 27 degrees as well. Jennifer Vuchitsky from Weatherology joins us now to tell us more about the forecast as we head into midweek. Jennifer, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, well, temperature-wise today, it's not moving around too much compared to our current temperatures this morning. Most areas already pretty close to the forecasted highs today. Overall cooler compared to yesterday as that cold front pushed through. Mid to low 30s for the southern half of the state, mid to upper 20s for central and west central Wisconsin. Sunny or becoming mostly sunny across the board today. Wednesday starting to warm back up a little bit as a warm front begins to push through. Sunny for all, highs primarily in the mid to upper 30s. Our coolest spot around Wausau lingering in the low 30s there. Thursday, sunshine again, even warmer with that warm front continuing to push through. Highs in the mid to low 40s for all. Friday, it looks like some cloud cover starting to come in for everyone. Temperatures similar to Thursday with highs once again in the mid to low 40s. Looks like a slight chance for some rain coming in by the afternoon hours from Wausau over towards Amory and Baldwin. Then a slight chance for rain and snow mixing, then becoming all snow in the evening hours there. Otherwise, it does look like a chance for some rain coming in for everyone else by Friday night.
All right. And Jennifer, just to let you know what we were talking about before, coming up on winter here. You can go on a winter vacation, skiing, snowshoeing, whatever it is you like to do outdoors, or a water park for a weekend. Where are you when it comes to winter weekends?
Ooh, I'd probably pick the water park.
Yeah. Okay. See, we're kind of that way here too. So you're amongst friends. So good call. Thanks, Jennifer. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. I'm sorry, Greg. Did I hear you there? Okay. I wasn't sure if you were going to ask Jennifer a question or challenge her on her choice of water park over. I don't think any weather person likes to be put on the spot, like choosing indoors instead of outdoors. Like every weather person is supposed to be like, oh yes, I'm outdoors every chance that I get. No, just means you like to forecast the weather.
What's your favorite natural disaster?
Tornado, hurricane, go.
I'm going with prom 1995.
Oh no. I've got the prom story. I've got the prom disaster story.
Oh Lord.
Only because my girlfriend broke up with me the week before, but we decided to go to prom anyway because we'd already paid for the tickets. They were expensive and the dress was expensive and the tux rental. So we went through with it, but awkward. Just
we
went the bare minimum, of dinner. We listened to like one song for the band and we kind of looked at each other like, you good? Yeah, I'm good. All right, we're it.
Okay.
Contrast that, another friend of mine though, she did not get asked to prom by any of the boys, and she had to work as the coat check girl at prom. So every time I think I had a bad experience, my friend reminds me, were you the coat check girl at your own prom? No, got that going for me. We'll talk about the Packer game last night and more coming up right after a quick pause here on Up North News Radio, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network.
WAUK.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here.
I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe, and is the best way to protect that legacy.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
UpUS Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Shaw, WAUK.
The party's on. The feeling's here.
This is sounds like a really good version of a Christmas song I heard someplace else.
Just keep poking the bear, dude. Just
Wonderful Christmas time. This would be a group called the Shins. I'd never heard of them until this past weekend as I was fiddling around the radio stations, and up comes a better version of Wonderful Christmas Time. And I knew Greg would. I rushed to put this into the lineup so that Greg could compare and contrast with Mr. McCartney's version.
I am unhappy right now. Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me so? Yeah, it's my birthday too.
Birthday, and I'm torturing the poor birthday boy. I'm not sorry. All right, let's unpack some more of the news here at 7:21. This is, I guess, a standalone story. Some people would think this is a standalone story from Turkey and a soccer game in Turkey, but I don't entirely think so. The Turkish Football Federation has suspended all of its league games around the country after the president of one of the clubs punched a referee in the face at the end of a big match. The club president attacked the ref on the pitch, as they say, late Monday after the final whistle of a 1-1 draw. The ref fell to the ground and was also kicked in a bit of a melee. The federation announced it was suspending all league games indefinitely after an emergency meeting to discuss the violence. The ref was hospitalized with a slight fracture near his eye, but was not in serious condition and was expected to be discharged. The club president was considered to be at risk of a heart attack and was hospitalized overnight. He was ordered arrested pending trial on charges of injuring a public official. Now, during the questioning, and this is the part that caught my attention, the club president denied causing any injury, insisting that he merely slapped the referee, and he blamed the incident on the ref, whom he accused of wrongful decisions and provocative acts, citing unnamed judicial officials in this story. That's not the right answer. And so again, you can say this is an isolated incident, but again, there's something rather Trumpian in here about inciting violence, causing violence, provoking violence, and then blaming the person, the victim of the violence, accusing them of wrongful decisions. That's not the response. That's not the right response at all. The right response is, I am sorry. I lost my head. I lost control. I will accept whatever punishment is meted out, because slapping, punching, kicking a ref, frankly, doing anything to a referee is wrong. And yeah, of course, leave it to me. I would draw that parallel from sports to politics in talking about the referees, but we'll save that discussion for another time, only to say that story stuck out at me because of the conditions that we live in which some people continue to play the victim, even as they bring violence onto others and try to blame them for it. If you missed it at the top of the hour or in our last hour, the Texas abortion case of Katie Cox, the young mother pregnant with her third child, who has a non-viable pregnancy, has fled the state in order to get the health care that she needs to protect her health and protect her future fertility options to become pregnant again, because the Texas Supreme Court ruled against her and said, no, you do not meet what we think are the conditions for an exception in the Texas abortion ban. Now, I bring you that bad news to tell you a little bit of good news. And to do it, we have to go back 10 years. We have to go back to 2013 and the floor of the Michigan legislature. On the floor of the Michigan State Senate, they are debating a bill, and that this bill would have required rape insurance. In other words, health insurance companies were not going to be allowed to cover abortion as a result of rape. And what Republicans wanted and passed into law was a bill essentially saying that women needed to buy rape insurance separately if they needed assistance paying for this. Well, that didn't sit well with one Democratic state senator who stood up and revealed for the first time publicly that she had been raped while in college. And had she become pregnant, she would not have been able to afford an abortion under the proposed law. It's something that motivated her. She recalled receiving hundreds of calls and emails. She called it a turning point for realizing how much people cared about protecting a woman's right to choose if she should need or want an abortion. And her political activism continued. And now Gretchen Whitmer is no longer a state senator. She is now in her second term as the governor of Michigan. And yesterday, she signed a bill sent to her by the now Democratic Michigan legislature, repealing that requirement for rape insurance, something she was extremely happy to do yesterday. She said it's kind of a stunning full circle moment where it does reinforce that these fights are worth having and they're winnable, even if sometimes it takes a little longer than it should. The voters spoke loud and clear, she said. And so I do think that in this moment, in this country, this is an important, crucial issue for a lot of people. She is absolutely right on all fronts. There's no reason it should have taken 10 years to repeal a requirement for rape insurance, but there's also no good reason why it ever should have been required in the first place. To have that kind of assault on women, on rape victims, approved not only by men, but by women, I'm quite confident, who were conservatives in the Michigan legislature at the time. But it does remind us that even though sometimes these things take an awfully long time, they are fights worth having. Obviously, the people who are opposed to women's reproductive health rights think the same thing. It took them 50 years, but they eventually did repeal the abortion rights in Roe versus Wade. And so similarly, whether it's in line with civil rights or suffrage, allowing women the right to vote, or so many other worthy endeavors, these things sometimes take a long time, way longer than you would like. There were many people who fought for civil rights who died long before seeing the Civil Rights Act passed. There were many women who spent their lives fighting for something as simple as the right to vote, who came to the end of their lives before the 19th Amendment passed into law. And again, on a host of other issues that you could name. And in the case of Gretchen Whitmer, taking this as a state senator in 2013 and making one floor speech that resonated well with others, talking about her personal experience, she fought for 10 years to get the outcome that they saw yesterday in that state. In much the same way, our friend, Dr. Kristen Lyerly, and others, along with Attorney General Josh Kaul, it took far longer than we would have liked for a Dane County judge to ultimately rule that an 1849 law in the state is not an abortion ban. Now, the court fight will go on. It does take a while. But again, it's because certain people like Dr. Lyerly, Attorney General Kaul, and others stepped up that we eventually do achieve justice on important issues like this. When we come back, Congressman Mark Pocan will join us, and we'll look back at 2023, a most unusual year for the United States House of Representatives. Wherever you're listening across Wisconsin, when you're here, you're up north. Back in a bit.
Children's choir sings a song, and everyone can sing along.
WAUK.
CBS News Brief. Harvard student newspaper reporting college president Claudine Gay will remain in office despite congressional testimony some deemed anti-Semitic. Hundreds of faculty members signed a letter of support. History professor Allison Frank Johnson.
We need to make decisions about leadership based on a sober, view of what a person has done and what they have the potential to do, and not in a moment of panic.
UN General Assembly is expected to vote on a ceasefire resolution for the war in Gaza. CBS's Pam Falk.
Now, Arab nations at the UN are hoping to show world support, even if symbolic, for a halt in the fighting in order to get more aid to the civilian population.
Former U.S. Ambassador Stephen Pfeiffer on President Zelensky's visit to lawmakers in Washington to urge passage of stalled U.S. aid.
They are determined to maintain their independence. They want to be a normal European state. They don't want to be a colony of Russia.
CBS News Brief. I'm Deborah Rodriguez.
For Civic Media News, I'm Nate Weggehout. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. The state Senate's top Republican says he's standing by the state elections commissioner who acted as a false elector after the 2020 presidential election. Bob Spindell and 9 other false electors settled a civil lawsuit last week saying they acted to overturn the results of that election. Senate Majority Leader Devin LeMahieu said Monday that he will not remove Spindell from the Elections Commission despite calls from Democrats for his removal. A new poll suggests more people in Wisconsin are buying guns for self-protection. The Journal-Sentinel and Marquette University polled 354 Wisconsin gun owners recently. It's the most extensive survey of Wisconsin's gun owners' opinions so far. Roughly half of Wisconsin's homes have guns in them. The survey finds 3 to 8% of Wisconsin gun owners say they've pulled a trigger in self-defense. I'm Nate Weggehout, Civic Media News.
Don't let biased algorithms or degree screens or exclusive professional networks or stereotypes, don't let anything keep you from discovering the half of the workforce.
Hey there, Mark. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Pat. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well.
All right. You get a good rundown there on what we're going to be reviewing?
No, unfortunately, none of my staff are here this morning to tell me shit. So, and I didn't get the computer ready, and I had to get Chrome. So I'm glad I made it.
Oh, no worries. I'm glad you did. Yeah, we'll start in 2 minutes here. And so what I've got here is we'll start with something light, the Ice Age Trail, and other additions to the national park system. Our main theme is dysfunction versus accomplishments with a small majority. This year versus the last session. I see you put out something about Biden infrastructure transportation down in your neck of the woods. We're going to touch very briefly on, just having you explain what exactly is this dust up with APEC, because we really, frankly, we just aren't spending a lot of time on the conflict, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you a bit about what that's about. And then if time allows, government shutdown looming again. What are your thoughts as we turn the calendar? So is that all the high points?
Yeah. When did you send this to Matt? Just so I know.
I texted him this when he said we were texting back and forth around 6 last night.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. I'm just yeah. And the door was also open when I got here with lights on and no one's here. And I'm like, all right.
Oh,
that's weird.
Okay. Well, I don't know where you are, but if Marjorie is wandering around or Derek, you never know late at night like this. So,
well, that's
all right.
Derek is here.
I'll be up there with you in 60 seconds here.
All right.
Jewelry into something new, or trade in your outdated pieces for something new and exciting. Many people inherit jewelry that might not be your taste, but you and Robert Hack Diamonds pays cash for your unwanted gold, silver, and diamonds. See them in Brookfield, just east of Moreland on Greenland Avenue, or 76 in Layton, right on the corner in Greenfield. RobertHackDiamonds.com.
Waukesha, home of Les Paul, our awesome farmers market, and The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM, WAUK, UK.
A reminder, we've got Up North News Radio live for you today from Lake Wissota, and again on Wednesday and Thursday. Then starting Friday, I'm going to take a little break for the rest of the calendar year. We've put together some nice pre-recorded shows where we talk to some of our regulars that we have along, and we get to have much more casual conversations. We're also going to play back some of our favorite interviews over the past year. We've had some book authors in, some great health-related guests. So I urge you to continue tuning in over the couple of weeks here over the holidays, where we just take a bit of a more relaxed pace in terms of conversation, and we'll really get back to covering day-to-day news when we fire this baby up again come Tuesday, January 2nd, to start off 2024. It's been a year, 2023, especially if you're a member of the United States House of Representatives, as Congressman Mark Pocan is, and joins us right now. Congressman, good morning. Happy holidays to you.
Good morning, Pat. Same to you and your listeners.
I want to so badly try to keep this on a level of whatever one step above is how we would normally talk about, a place that gives us Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and everything else. But I guess all I can do is ask it in the most open-ended way. Congressman, when you look at 2023, how are you going to look back at it?
By the numbers, I think we've been the least productive Congress since the Depression. I think 22 bills have been signed into law that have gone through the House and the Senate. That includes, I believe, the post office renamings, which, as you know, aren't exactly significant bills as far as controversy. So we've done very little. And even when we have done things, like we made an agreement around lifting the debt ceiling that would have made sure we would have had no budget problems this year, those were broken by the Republican House majority within 2 weeks. And now we still haven't passed any appropriation bills. Our fiscal year ended, we've passed some appropriation bills. Fiscal year passed September 30th, but we're way past where we should be. We can't pass a farm bill, so we punted for a year on that. Just a lot not getting done in Washington.
And it's with the same slim majority for Republicans that Democrats had. So, granted, I mean, yes, the Senate is in Democratic hands. The White House is in Democratic hands. Things aren't exactly the same, but it's not just the fact that Republicans had a small majority that is responsible for so much of this year's chaos, right?
It's not quantitative as much as qualitative. You would think, oh, they only had a handful of seats. Well, we only had a handful of seat majority, identical to what they had, and we passed four of the biggest bills in the last decade since I've been in Congress, from infrastructure bills to investing and making things here in America with the Science and Chips Act, to reducing costs around healthcare and energy with the Inflation Reduction Act, and getting us out of COVID all in one session. And then this session, we can't even do the 101 really of Congress, which is the appropriations process. So there's a big difference. And part of that big difference was Kevin McCarthy, when he became Speaker, was so desperate to have Speaker on a business card that he gave away the store, changed the rules, put people who are some of the dysfunctional people here on every committee, including key committees like appropriations. And now we're just mired in the dysfunction that we're in. 19 votes for Speaker. We certainly can vote for Speaker. We just can't pass bills.
Let's at least acknowledge one thing that has gone right recently. Well, a couple of things, frankly. For example, the Ice Age Trail is now part of the National Park System. I see you put out a note about that, which is always, again, anything that contributes to both Wisconsin tourism and preserving our natural resources is a good thing.
Yeah, and that even though there were legislative routes, Tammy Baldwin clearly in the Senate, Glenn Grothman and I here in the House, it actually got done through the administration getting things done, right, moving things forward. And I think that is what we're seeing, is most action that has happened because President Biden's had the powers, but his powers aren't unlimited. So, where we've had progress, it's largely been because of the Biden administration, not Congress. But that is something really good, and we're celebrating, because once you get that extra federal recognition, it really does help us to take the Ice Age Trail, I think, in some really new directions.
The other example of that would be, again, through infrastructure, the bipartisan infrastructure law, along with, again, those other initiatives that were passed by a Democratic Congress, are continuing to bear fruit. And that would certainly include transportation infrastructure in the 2nd District where you are.
Yeah, not just that. I also want to mention broadband. $1 billion came to Wisconsin for broadband expansion. I'm guessing many of your listeners might have issues. I did until 5 years ago. I live in a rural town in Western Dane County, 830 people. We only had it 5 years ago. So until then, you tried different things. I think I had a Verizon satellite product, everything else, but this is making sure that more people will be connected. And then on the infrastructure, investing in our roads and bridges, we've certainly seen a lot of dollars come to Wisconsin for that, in my district specifically. So that's all good, right? That's part of what we did in that last Congress. That's part of what the Biden administration has gotten done. And, I was here, I think I remember 4 presidents who've talked about investing in infrastructure, and one got it done, and that was this president.
And yet, even as these initiatives continue to bear fruit, and they will for many years, and benefit Wisconsin and the state economy, local economies, there is still this ongoing, I don't know if debate is the right word, about the economic feels versus the economic data. And the data shows us one thing, and yet so many people express feelings of pessimism, despite, again, all of the accomplishments in the first half of President Biden's first term. My question for you is, as somebody who will be not only campaigning for yourself, but I'm sure on behalf of Senator Tammy Baldwin as she runs for a 3rd term, on behalf of President Biden, what will be the types of messages that you bring to Wisconsin voters in 2024 to counter whatever it is that's feeding, those bad vibes that people are assessing to an economy that the data shows is actually in better shape than their feelings?
Yeah, I mean, if you want a job, you can get a job right now. And that's across the country, not just in Wisconsin, because of a lot of the measures we did. And there's going to be a lot of good family supporting construction jobs because of that. And that's going to be really great for the economy. I think what we're seeing is in some areas, inflation has lingered, coming back out of COVID, the entire world at once with supply chain issues because people weren't producing things. We saw lots of inflation. That's largely gone down. But, bluntly, there's some people still price gouging. And personally, I think the president should call them out, call out the good players and call out the bad players, because some companies have been good about reducing prices again as costs have gone down. Others have decided to pad their pockets. And I think that's worthy of pointing out. But we really do have to celebrate the fact that you can get a good paying job thanks to a lot of the measures that happened. And people do have that opportunity. Costs still are up in some areas, but that's something that we will work on, or we need to continue to work on. And again, the good news is we're all out of COVID. The world economy is back humming, but there are some lingering inflationary issues. And I think at the end of the day, as long as you have a good job and you can support your family and take that family vacation, maybe get that camper or snowmobile, whatever it is that you want for a luxury, you can do that now. And that's thanks to the economy getting to this point, thanks to the Biden administration.
Congressman, we're going to talk briefly about the conflict in the Mideast, which for our listeners, they'll pick up right away that it's something we don't dwell on very much here. We're much more a show that's rooted in state-based politics and policy and stories. But you have been involved in, shall we say, some feuding with the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC. It's AIPAC, AIPAC. And look, this conflict has definitely brought out not just strong feelings, but political cynicism. We've seen the absolute worst in some people who then ascribe it to religion rather than politics. But I would just like to know, and give you the opportunity to talk about what is it that you and AIPAC are going back and forth on, and what you feel people ought to know about AIPAC as a result of recent events.
Sure. I mean, this is a battle really more grounded in Russ Feingold and campaign finance reform than it is in anything happening in the Middle East. So this group AIPAC is a big money group, that dark money group that puts a lot of anonymous money into elections. But what they've done is pretty nefarious. They and one other group, cryptocurrency folks, last cycle, for the first time ever, got involved in Democratic primaries and dumped millions, spending oftentimes 4 times what the candidates themselves can actually spend. So they're really trying to buy elections. They're really making them auctions rather than not. In the case of crypto, the person who did that just got prosecuted. So I think he's out of the picture. But AIPAC is still the only entity that's doing this. that raises big money from big Republican donors like Sheldon Adelson and all those like big, deep-pocketed folks, and then spends it in Democratic primaries against Democrats for other Democrats. And by doing that, we really could lose our democracy. If the NRA did that, if the Sackler family, if Big Pharma, we would all be crying out because it's really trying to skirt campaign finance laws. But in this case, it's a group that really claims, and I think most of their interest is around what's happening in another country, specifically backing the Netanyahu government. That's their preferred policy. But it's really a conservative Trojan horse, dark money group that's trying to buy Democratic primaries. And I just think if we allow this to happen, other groups will do the same thing. And next thing you know, only billionaires and special moneyed interests will be spending money in elections. Most of this is rooted in stuff that Russ Feingold talked about decades ago. And I'm just trying to make sure that we don't have that problem right now in 2024.
The funny thing is we use the word oligarchs to talk about Russia by and large, and yet I don't know that we're that far off from using, words like that here. Even witness last week, we had a little fun with the news descriptions of Eric Hovde as a banking baron. We don't get to use the word baron very much, but apparently it's being used for a potential opponent for Tammy Baldwin. And, the question we asked last week is, as she runs, and she was your predecessor in that 2nd district congressional seat, the fact that we're talking about taking on barons or referencing oligarchs does say something about where we're getting our candidates from these days.
Yeah, I mean, things have not changed. Unfortunately, money still has tremendous influence in politics. And this is one. I mean, my favorite, I think, about Eric Hovde is, he actually was named one of the 500 most influential people in Orange County, California, where he largely spends his time. And the fact that you have to transport a candidate from California to Wisconsin so that they can try to buy a Senate seat, much like they did with the Governor Evers, right? When you had, Tim Michaels, who lived in Connecticut in a giant mansion, and his kids went to school in Connecticut. That's where he lived, and he was running for governor here. We don't need you to import rich dudes in order to try to get elections. I mean, we have plenty of talented people in every party in Wisconsin, but I think too often they're getting squeezed out by big money. So whether it be a group like AIPAC that's Trojan horse putting Republican money in Democratic primaries very disingenuously, or it's just outright rich people coming in and saying, I like that, I want it, neither is good for democracy. And I think we need to keep that spirit of Russ Feingold living and really calling those things out.
And yet when we come back in the 2024 calendar year, you're going to have, again, a government shutdown.
Don't forget the Farm Bill, which is really important in Wisconsin. They punted for a whole year because they couldn't even figure out how to open up the box and put it together. And, this is unfortunately what the House of Representatives is under Republican leadership, and especially now having a brand new speaker. I mean, even we just found out overnight we were supposed to vote on some bills about, government really sometimes spying on the public. And, it's something that Democrats and Republicans can get together on. But because they only have such a small majority, they're yanking those bills now, it looks like this week, because they can't do that. One more day of getting up to the little T and forgetting their bat. And it's just getting to be really a little difficult to see the end game for them. I think the end game may turn out to be the public says, look, we need people who can actually govern. And, I love the fact I've got a good family supporting job. Now just give me lower costs and we're going to be good.
A more cynical person would think that they're doing all this punting, much like the legislature does with a surplus, to, just run out the clock and hope they can win the next election and control it all. But we'll see. Congressman Mark Pocan, thank you again. Always great to talk to you. Have a great holiday season.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it. Take care.
All right. Back with Chad Holmes after this. You're Up North.
UK.
And we're out. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. And thanks for asking about AIPAC. I think it is good for people to kind of get an idea, because a lot of my fight is specifically insidery with a very specific purpose. But it is nothing different than what Russ Feingold talked about all those years. So I appreciate it.
No, it's my honor. All right. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.
We'll see you. Bye.
All right. Bye now. Hey, Chad.
Howdy.
Wow.
The art of
coming together nicely there.
Radio keeps your community informed, entertained, and connected. It's what we're all about at the Civic Media Network of local radio stations.
We're having fun and moving fast to preserve hometown radio across Wisconsin. This includes a commitment to news. Now we want to invite you to join Civic Media's exclusive Facebook group, Wisconsin Breaking News. It's a place to share your community's news and chat with others from across the state about it.
Join the Facebook group Wisconsin Breaking News today. It's the perfect companion to your local Civic Media radio station. The Shaw, WAUK.
Still ahead today, the usual lineup. Greg will be back for As Goes Wisconsin coming up after our 8 o'clock shows. You've got Todd Alba from noon to 2, Matt Flynn from 2 to 4, Devil's Advocates from 4 to 6, Maggie Dawn up at 6 p.m. We've got all kinds of great weekly shows that play in the evenings across the Civic Media Radio Network. But at 8 o'clock, we've got Chad Holmes here in Wausau and Bull Falls Radio, Stephanie Miller in Madison, James and the gang in Wisconsin Rapids, Earl Ingram on many other Civic Media stations. But Mr. Holmes joins us now to talk about things happening on Bull Falls Radio up in your neck of the woods, where the studio, I got to say, is coming together very nicely. As I saw pictures of a lot of artwork and things getting put up in the new studios downtown.
Yeah, it's really coming together really nicely. It's adding a lot of nice little ambiance along with everything else that we got going on here. But before we go any further, I have to say happy birthday to Greg Bach. I was tuned in before. Got to say, apparently he's still young enough where you celebrate birthdays. I'm so past that now, but happy birthday to Greg Bach.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Chad Holmes. The studio looks great. Thank you for remembering. I just got to say, it really makes me feel good. Thanks a lot, buddy. You know, okay. All right.
Craig,
for folks on the radio, I've added a happy birthday banner. I put a banner up on the screen for the live feed that says "Happy Birthday, Craig." Oh, it's Greg, isn't it? It's Greg. I'm sorry. Let me take that down.
You could have put down "Happy Birthday." What's your name?
We're gonna. This whole thing is gonna just have.
Look, you have so weaponized Paul McCartney now. This has gone off the rails.
I am a firm believer, Chad, that even you don't have to do a big to-do. You don't have to do a birthday week. That's a little weird. Mm-hmm. But it's your birthday. You should celebrate you. You should, buy yourself a present, take yourself out for a meal, whatever. But you should at least that one day, your day. It's good.
And by the way, there's somebody else. It's always every December 12th. I always remember it being the birthday because when I was a kid, my favorite Milwaukee brewer was Stormin
Gorman. Yep.
Heck yeah.
It's his birthday as well. So happy birthday, Stormin Gorman Thomas.
And because of that, let's just.
Wow.
You started this, dude. You started this.
I know.
And I'm going to end it.
And so you have. So Chad, now that you've become the skunk at the garden party, you want to tell us what else you're working on up there?
Hey, I'm actually, I want to kind of let people know about tomorrow because tomorrow's got a nice show. We're going to start off with Kristen Alfheim. She does a show over in the Green Bay area, a Rational Revolution, but it's also special because me and her graduated the same year from DC Upper. So it's wonderful to have somebody that I graduated high school with that's also here with Civic Media. So it's fun to have be able to talk to her tomorrow. And then tomorrow as well, I'm going to be talking to Doug Denny. He is a councilman here in Wausau, and he's running for mayor. So it's going to be, I want to make sure that as we get into the spring 24 election with a very important election for mayor, along with others here in Wausau, get a chance to talk to Doug Denny, find out, why he's running in terms of the issues important to him, and find out about his background. I think folks know him a bit because he's been a councilman for a couple of terms, but Doug Denny, who's going to, be going up against incumbent Mayor Katie Rosenberg, I think it's going to be a very interesting race. There's obviously some very important issues going on. So we'll be talking to Doug Denny tomorrow morning at 9:20, and then we'll have the mayor back on next Monday to kind of continue to talk about the issues that we'll be focusing, as we get very close to 2024.
Do you when you have these conversations, do you foresee that there are specific issues that will shape a mayor's race in Wausau, or are they much more at kind of a 30,000-foot level of spending overall and taxes overall and their resume, things like that?
You know
How do
what?
you think?
One of the interesting things about this race that I think is going to be a little different than maybe some of the other races we've seen in the past is the role of the mayor. I think you are as well aware, and I think a lot of us who deal with Mayor Rosenberg and people here in central Wisconsin, it's what does the Mayor Rosenberg feels she uses her bully pulpit. She is somebody that is not afraid to be involved in non-economic issues as a leader of this community, of standing up at times when she feels like it's important. When Councilman Denny announced his candidacy, I think about a month and a half ago, one of the quotes that was put in all the reporting on it, he talked about I didn't bring my notes in here, but basically a little less of that. And I'm going to kind of go.
Are they getting into the running government like a business type of thing? Is that what we're talking about?
That it's that far, but I mean, I don't want to put word. I mean, that's one of the issues I'm going to talk about with the alderman tomorrow. Is that because and I talked to the mayor about this last time around, and she actually is embracing the idea that her opponent is running in this way. And again, it's one of the issues, but it was one of the issues that was kind of brought out during the launch. And I want to kind of delve into that because I think that, and I think there's different ways of being in a position of leadership, but I do think the moral aspect is something that's important. I kind of want to delve a little bit into that and let the councilman discuss what he thinks in that area. And I think that's going to be one of the aspects outside of the water issue, outside of some of the economic issues that, again, I think there are some folks, I mean, as you know as well, I think that the mayor is somebody that is beloved by many, but there are others that feel like she does go maybe into some areas that maybe they would rather she did not go into.
Well, it's funny because people like somebody who's charismatic when they also happen to agree with your positions. And when they don't agree with your positions, there's just too much out there. We need somebody that's, much more businesslike. And by the way, let me be fair here. It's a perfectly valid argument that we've had forever in this country about strong mayor, weak council versus, weak mayor, strong council, and other variations of it. And it works well with the right people either way. It really just comes down to sometimes what do you, the voter, feel like this time around? And if people right now like having a mayor who's extremely personable and charismatic and happens to agree with them on a lot of the values. But yeah, there's other times when people want somebody that's just kind of more quiet, business-like. I understand it. So I think you're gonna have a really good campaign to cover. I hope it doesn't get bitter and just as a very illustrative. I can't think of a better place to do it than on your show weekdays from 8 to 10. So enjoy all that, and we'll keep us up to speed on it. But also, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you. Thanks so much for all the updates throughout the year here.
Thank you, Pat. And again, happy birthday, Greg.
Oh, you just gotta stir that pot, don't you? All right. Well, coming up tomorrow after Greg Bach's birthday day +1. We'll have our hometown education segment and much more. Enjoy your Tuesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Up north.